Welcome to Loaded and Rolling. It's the special vacation edition. That's right, dear listener. I'm on vacation the week you're listening to this, so I wanted to bring in the experts, and we're going to be talking about some stuff. This is going to be a fun one because normally I'm talking about freight fraud, freight tech, and other stuff, but in this special edition, I just want to kind of attack the golden, what are they called? The golden calves. We're going to sacrifice the golden calves. We're going Old Testament at this point, but super excited to be having on Mary O'Connell and Grace Sharkey. They're two of our wonderful experts here at FreightWaves. You may know Mary O'Connell from Running on Ice, talking about cold chain, as well as Check Call, talking about freight brokerages and 3PLs. And then Grace Sharkey, host of SiriusXM's FreightWaves Drive Time, as well as one of our excellent writers in the Freight Fraud newsletter. So enough of the titles and the formalities. Let's dive right in. I have to talk about this freight fraud event in Dallas. Y'all need to sign up for it. Whoever's editing this, put it in the graphics. We're going to just put it right over the graphics. It's like May 14th. So we're going to talk about that real quick. That's question one. Grace, we're going to kick it over to you first because you write the Freight Fraud newsletter. And what's going on? How did this get? Why are things the way they are?
Why are you the way you are? No, it's one could say in a way we've kind of, as an industry, created this situation, right? We are a very fragmented industry, moving quite literally up to, if not 100,000, if not more, in goods in every single trailer across the United States, not including rail as well, and clearly the fraud that happens within containers too. So we've got that going for us. We've got the fact that there's, after I think a change in law, federal law, about I think it was 2018, there's really no real idea of who's in charge of this on a federal level between the FMCSA, the DOT, DOJ. There's just no one who's really in charge of putting the hammer down on these criminals when it happens. So it's a lot of, kind of throw the Spider-Man meme up, right? And people pointing at other people of what to do next once these crimes happen. For brokers, carriers out there, if ever a load is stolen, the most annoying part of that is calling a police officer and having him tell you to call the city it picked up in, and then that city being like, no, call the city that the trailer's owned, and that city being like, no, do where the crime happened. And it's just, that alone is almost like not even worth it. And so we've kind of created this atmosphere that allows for this to happen, and then add the technology between the load boards and of course, even just like Gmail and email phishing and all that fun stuff. Hotmail. We'll talk about an email address not to trust. Sorry to all the over 50-year-olds out there with Hotmail accounts.
Hey, don't exclude the @sbcglobal.net.
Yeah, yes, yeah. For the few grandmas out there still on AIM or AOL.com.
Netscape. Remember Netscape? Yeah, like find my truck at netscape.com.
Yeah.
The stat.
Right? I don't Gmail's suspicious. Hotmail's, what the hell's going on? No. So you add all that, right, and it makes for a beautiful American melting pot of crime, right? And so that's really, I think, why we're here now. And there's so many different pieces of freight fraud too, whether it's literally stealing loads, whether it's, this week we're going to be touching on PPP loan issues that are still coming to.
Did you hear that? I didn't mean to interrupt. Did you hear that apparently $315 million in PPP loans were registered to children? I'm doing something wrong. Maybe that's why we need more kids. It used to be in the 90s, you'd have the credit cards filled out in your kid's name, and then Dateline would be like, little Billy has 10 grand in debt because his mom wanted to buy random stuff from Profits. But now it's literally like, I'm going to get a PPP loan and use my child's SSN, and it's going to be like $315 million. I love it. So that's what the truckers are doing, right? Because you could get a PPP loan for like just breathing or water basket weaving, right? And that's fraud happening.
Yeah, as someone who saw the PPP loan operations, I guess, application process back in the day, it didn't take much, right? A lot of paperwork that was easily fixed could go through that system, and now the hammer is just being, of course, just now set down on a lot of those individuals. So So you're right. You have the PPP loans. You have stealing of identities. One I just talked to Truck Stop about that they're seeing more and more of are like, people buying MCs for pretty much next to nothing and then, using that to continue on that identity as well. So there's just so many different pieces and violations that fall under freight fraud that we had to put a newsletter together for it. And there's a lot of interest in the topic and a lot of people who and I will say what's really great about the freight fraud audience, it's not just like carriers and brokers. I mean, there's investors, there's bankers, there's a lot of people that have reached out to me that get this, that I'm like, oh wow, to see like this is on your radar, I think is pretty huge. To look at the companies we've seen that have gotten really interesting raises this year, you look at someone like Genlogs, right, who's not just a company to help fight fraud, but it's a solution, it's a tool that can definitely facilitate fighting it. And so yeah, that's why we started it. That's why we have this awesome event coming up in Dallas, Texas soon. Head to live.freightwaves.com. Again, hey, production team, throw maybe a banner down here that I can point at right here. Or maybe like a little criminal running across.
Can I say it's the best thing that's happened to Dallas since JFK showed up?
Hey, you know what? Or the Bushka lady? Yeah.
All right, after I got banned, let's kick it over to Mary real quick.
I think well, I don't know if I can follow that, but no, it's freight fraud is something that obviously all of us in this space know. And I yearn for the days where I just have a simple double brokering case. What a time. Never in my life do I think I would yearn for a double broker, or like if we're getting crazy, maybe like a load hostage situation. Like what a time. But no, it's definitely evolved as technology has and as the industry has. But also, it's something that consumers are starting to see now too. So there was, I know last year there was this big story about $30,000 of crab going missing, of like fresh crab. And most recently, and when PlayStation 5s came out, those were a pretty big target. Most recently, there was a story that hit national news that someone stole $40,000 of a trailer of eggs. And it's something that consumers are starting to see as well. And, while the average person that doesn't necessarily work in logistics or supply chain, why they might not understand why would someone steal an entire trailer of eggs? Like that doesn't make sense. That seems so random, but it really isn't, because the criminals, they run a very sophisticated network. And if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. If criminals ever want to take their like underground secret logistics fraud network public or legit, oh boy, would they make money, because these are efficient systems to the point where drivers will pull up to these warehouses and not know that it's a fraudulent warehouse full of a whole bunch of theft. But no, so I think as it's hitting more mainstream and consumers are really starting to see, what's the seeming random being stolen. It's really not, because where there is a shortage, where there is demand for it, there is that opportunity for someone to make money and to, kind of take advantage of the situation. So I think that's really mindful, as we head into, to say some uncertainty would probably be an understatement, with potential tariffs maybe coming at the beginning of April, or who knows what's happening with those situations. As we start to see maybe shortages in certain products or delays on imports, I think we'll start to see kind of some of these more seemingly random theft occasions start to happen. I mean, I've even heard of someone stealing an entire truck of dog food, which in my mind, that was just the Humane Society stealing it so they could feed their animals. Not a criminal, because a criminal would never steal food from dogs.
I love the fact, so the craziest thing with this industry is that from my research and personal experience, y'all have both been functional as well. So we aren't just journalists. We've done the jobs before. It's built around, bro, just trust me. It has been built around, and we'll say it one more time for the listener, bro, just trust me. How do we just trust me? I could hack your stuff, send an updated order thing with an extra stop, and the driver has his TMS updated, his routing does it, and he goes, okay, extra stop at warehouse XYZ. Cool, I'll just ask for a $50 stop charge later. And then the person who gets frauded is like, why is there a $50 stop fee in this load? And it's only found out like 8 weeks later, and by then it's too late, and it was like $10,000, and it's too much work to look for it. Like, it is criminally easy to fraud things. They are secured with what's called a seal. Now, if your driver's smart, he has a lock like your bike that I can break into. So we're at like New York bike levels of crime. That's the IQ we really need to like break into the back of a trailer. Or we just buy at the truck stop the plastic seal that has a number. And so you go to the guy, you snip off his plastic seal, and if you're smart, you already had your own seals. You break into it. Driver's asleep or doing something else if he's not paying attention, or you do it on a Saturday because he's at home at a truck stop. Touch the hood. It's really easy, folks. And you just pull out some stuff and then you close it back up, reseal it. Guy's gonna do his pre-trip. He's not gonna know because he's not gonna look at the seal count. He's in a hurry. Everyone's in a hurry. And then boom, you got a free pallet of stuff. Like, it's that stupid. Like, the fraudsters have a backup underground economy where they sell consumer goods and beverages. That's why those are the top 2 things stolen. So, like,
Thomas, have you stolen a load before?
I've had a few of mine stolen. I've had some fraud.
Yeah, you go, just touch the top. Ooh, it's cool. You're good to go, buddy. Yeah.
Because I you talk to the drivers and you're like, how did this happen? He's like, well, the seal was on. And then I asked, like, this has never happened before. Trucking is like, here is the most BS thing that's happened and you never had to deal with it before. And then it's like, so what do you mean? It's just got a seal? Yeah. Do you have a lock? No, I don't put a padlock. So it's just closed with a... Yes. And we complain about things like highway and other carrier vetting sharing your ELD data when I can just take my hedge trimmers. Come on, kids.
Sometimes you don't even need hedge trimmers. You just need like some wire cutters if it's like a thin plastic seal.
Or a large hammer.
Thomas is like sending a lot lizard to like distract. Thomas on like some Ocean's Ocean's 18 wheel.
Oh, yes.
I would watch that. I would watch the heck out of that.
With Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
It's like National Treasure meets Ocean's 11, and he has a female sidekick who basically distracts the driver, and it's so comically inept that he still gets away with it.
Wait, isn't that just Gone in 60 Seconds, but with trucks instead of cars?
Yeah, this is why we have a fraud newsletter, because while we're talking about freight tech, there's literally people just rolling out there like...
I will say for everyone looking to get the newsletter, it will not give you a descriptive idea of how to steal a loan. You are going to have to come watch this episode.
Somewhere out there, a dude in a cartel is taking notes, and he's like, I really want to get promoted. I got to impress my boss in Sinaloa.
There's some guy like listening to this on his like phone on YouTube, like literally touching the like hood of an engine, being like, oh, this is an opportunity.
Yeah, like you could interview Samsung. Like when I ran Team Expedite, it got so bad that it's like out of Sicario. They will straight up follow your team in a random unmarked vehicle. So I'd have to call my drivers and be like, hey, we're picking up at Samsung RDC 111. Here's your HVP. You had to go 200 miles, no stopping. Make sure full tank of gas. Do not stop at any given time. Anytime the truck is stopped, make sure it's secured. And this was 10 years ago. But I'd be like, look, if a random car follows you, they are probably not going to try to break into it. They are the security car because you have about $1 million worth of cell phones in the back of this flimsy 53-foot wood-paneled dry van trailer. Just heads up. No pressure at all. That is the biggest thing that I think of is I love the fact that we're having fraud stories now because I've had so much crap happen. I found a load. No, we'll lose them. We accidentally fraud. One time at US Express, we lost a trailer, and it was for cosmetics, and it was a cosmetic customer for a launch of their new store. It got lost in the Laredo yard, which had like 1,000 trailers just chilling. So my driver's like, this one's not empty, and I'm a dispatcher. I'm like, huh? Tap 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 tap. Oh, tap 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 tap. Crap. And it was like a year ago, this load was lost, and it had HVP of like $5 million worth of beauty products. And so they filed a claim. I was like, I'm going to get fired. I'm the poor schmuck that found it. So carriers and listeners, before we go on to Freight Tech Bingo, because I'm going to make fun of that next with Mary and Grace. Before we make fun of the Freight Tech that's going in the opposite direction, because I'm spicy today, just know that there may be fraud or it may be incompetence. So if your large carrier loses your trailer, it may have not been stolen. There's just 30,000 of them, and they do go missing. There's like a statistical percentage. They just disappear. It's like when you have your headphones in your pocket and it just gets messed up and you don't know how the cord gets screwed up. That's how it works.
Enter a Genlogs ad right here where it says, find that missing trailer.
Are Genlogs the guys with the photos?
Yeah.
I love that guy. Is he the guy who was like ex-CIA and they found out, okay, so here's how bad fraud is. We need to use the CIA's techniques for tracking terrorists in Syria to find out where the heck your stuff is. Now, I
will
love what
say
they're
he
doing,
wouldn't
by
tell
the way.
me where he was watching over. I tried to pull that out of him. So I cannot say it was Syria. But yes, you're correct.
Like, it is so bad that we need to use intelligence community techniques, because drivers also won't share their data, or they don't want to because they worry that Big Brother is going to get them. I had one guy wrap his ELD in tinfoil, and he said that the government was watching him. And this was a driver tech. So this was like an old school, beep, boop, 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 you know, like built in. And we wondered why he like would
the government's watching you. It's the ELD's for.
Yeah, he thought it was trying to control his brain. He thought the FMCSA was like beaming stuff in, and like that was a real thing. So yeah, when we talk about the driver shortage narrative, there may be I don't think there's a shortage, but I think there is a shortage of drivers who, you know, when you're, I'll put it as this. Final thought, I swear, Mary, I'm going to get you on here. I'm just rambling.
No, I'm just wondering where this is going to go, Thomas. Enterprise trucking expert, your hot take on drivers.
It's the art of the turn. It's the art of the turn. We're doing whatever they call the joust. The reason we have the problem we do is because trucking's number one competitor is construction work. That's all I need to say. You know, an office space where he leaves the office and he works on a job site. That is, so a CDL driver who goes to school and trains to do this job, their biggest competition in the labor market is a non-skilled construction worker.
I'm just imagining your
make
wife
this up. So yeah, let's talk about freight tech now, because we got to solve this problem. We got to fix this. And we're going to fix it with AI. Generative AI models and agents. So, you know.
But are we? Because there are security firms that are former private security. Like, you going somewhere, you want to hire, you go into a rough area, you want to hire someone to follow you. You know, they have turned and then been like, hey, you want some drones to follow your trucks? Like, that's a thing. You could get private security for your trucks if you want.
I think that
I think you can shoot those drones down now in Tennessee.
That's a Tennessee problem, actually. Yeah, we've actually shot. You'll get rednecks shoot down the drones. That's why they do it over like Native American reservations and stuff. You know, I'm not going down what that rabbit hole means, but it's more favorable land because the Native Americans want to make more money off of it. So it's a really good economic benefit. But there was not a joke about bows and arrows. Okay, so that's whoever thought about that, you're wrong. But yeah, when we're talking about the drone. This is a pause for the commercial break.
Who's sad at this?
This is where we install the Freight Fraud Symposium ad, the commercial break.
Freight Fraud Symposium, please come to Dallas.
You convinced me.
Oh God, I'm so sorry to the person that has to edit this.
Oh my God.
I hope it's Cody. Please, Cody.
It probably. I'll see if I can make sure it's Cody.
This is art. This is pure cinema. So Freight Tech Bingo, folks. Now that we're back from our commercial break, I hear it all the time. It's buzzwords. Let's start with Mary. You're talking with brokers and stuff, and we'll talk with Grace right afterwards, who's interviewing the people. What the heck? Is it all the same at this point? What's going on?
Is it all the same at this point? Well, yes and no. So everyone is clamoring. Everyone feels like it's like when visibility first came out. Everyone was like, I need to have visibility tools. I need to have visibility tools. Everybody needs to have AI. But it's really about how to smartly implement AI. It's because you can't sit there and be like, okay, well, I have all these manual processes and I'm going to just put AI into my TMS and it's going to do everything for me. My guy, that's not going to work out well for you. It's not. You got to start with something simple. Like, I don't know, maybe track and trace. You don't need to immediately jump into an AI phone person that like dials all of your phones for you, or like someone calls and they get an AI assistant to help them out. You don't quite need that yet if you're starting small. But if you already have some sort of AI, data analysis tool, you're doing pretty good with your life. You're doing pretty great. You've realized that, all right, this AI, the data modeling, all of this, I just need someone to sit there and take an inference of the data and make an actionable plan for it. We love to see that kind of growth. We would love to be there. But it's really about because there's so many different pieces that a broker uses throughout the day, and honestly anyone in operations, because you've got your phone system, your load system, and 700 other different systems you have to go through. So it's really kind of about cutting out that extra crap, for lack of a better word, cutting out the extra crap, and then really kind of finding that process that works for you and your company. And that could literally be something as easy as just like, if someone messages you, I need a rate for this, just an AI assistant to immediately send it back and say, here you go. Because I mean, we've all been on the waiting end of that, of like, oh, I have to wait like 20 minutes for all these people, and I have 2 really good offers here, but I want to hold off and see if someone else can get back to me quick enough. And most of the time, it's just about that speed of being able to return those rates in a competitive and timely manner. And so yeah, that's kind of like the easiest place to start. But yeah, not all AI is created equal, and that is the important thing to remember. And my final, send off is, when you're looking for an AI partner, just maybe make sure that they will respond to your tickets and your problems, and they are invested in your future and your success. Because there's nothing worse than a technology provider that goes, here you go, have a nice day. And you're like, hey, it's broken. And they're like, cool, we'll get to your ticket in 5 to 7 business days. And then we'll fix it from there. And I'm like, cool, my entire operation is crippled at the moment. I can't do anything. And they're like, that sucks. So, just make sure that there's like some service level agreements that are positive in there.
It's like a business model. That's the worst business model ever. Holy cow.
Well, because if you're not one of like the big company, like if you're not one of like if you're a small to medium sized brokerage and you're not bringing in like a huge amount of revenue, you kind of get shoved to the back burner. So like, why would I sit here and work on an account that only maybe brings in like $100,000 a year versus, a CH Robinson that maybe spends like $1 million with me as a technology provider. It's just about like, keep the big customers happy, which is smart for a business, but also don't forget about the other ones, because, not everyone has the money like the big guys.
Secret why no one really sells to drivers very well, by the way. They don't have money. They're naturally distrustful. They don't like you to begin with, and they will definitely not pay half the time because back to square one, they have no money. Which is why
and they're also kind of skittish like a deer, so you have to approach carefully and cautiously.
It is. They're hard enough. Grace, you get to be on the inside scoop as a journalist and writer. There's all this super sexy AI. If we had a bingo, was there a bingo? Can we make a bingo card? What's the word?
Yeah, well, I do like the SLA stuff that Mary just said too. And I will say, just to add on to that really quick, if you are especially working with like a company who is very new, or like maybe especially those who've received a little bit of investment dollars, those ones in particular will have, of course, just like revenue goals they have to hit and things of that nature. So just be mindful of where you sit in their existence, and make sure that if you are becoming a partner, it's a partnership to really prove, I think, that technology works. A lot of times the smaller tech companies, right, will partner with different size players in the industry to kind of test out and trial and make sure their go-to-market works as well. So consider that as well. Outside of that, the one thing I would say is be mindful of, technology-wise, and I'd say, of course, AI is probably the middle square on that bingo card, right? You're going to see it. You're going to see it everywhere. And in that regards, if I was someone looking to invest in technology and I see the words AI, be mindful that the impact that technology is going to have is going to also be registered by what your data strategy is like at your company, right? So what does that team look like? Who's going to be communicating back and forth with that technology provider? Have you created a data forward?
We need a czar, a data czar.
Yeah, exactly. If you're just sitting here today and you literally pull Excel sheets and somehow turn those into charts, and that's how you're making your decisions, probably not probably best to start looking at Tableau and other technologies like that to help figure out your data plan, and then go after implementing some of these technologies from there. Also, I would highly recommend like looking outside of recruiting a lot of the individuals you're used to seeing in this industry, and start recruiting engineers. And what's really great about that too is I think there's a lot of other AI companies in different industries right now that are letting a lot of those people go. Like, grab those people and bring them into this industry. I've talked to a number of data engineers over the last year who've come from maybe finance or other different industries in particular, and they come here, and one, they're obsessed with it because there's a lot of problems to solve, and two, they can really use their a tenure and knowledge that they've acquired over the last couple of years at a different industry here in this industry too. There seems to be a lot of fire from those type of applicants, so consider that too. And to kind of even wrap this into the fraud situation, like, really think about how different technologies can, it's your freight stack, right? How are different technologies working with each other to solve a problem? Here's a perfect example. I was talking with FleetWorks the other day. FleetWorks not only could help you with your sales side of things, right? Reading emails, using AI and maybe more of the sales side of the organization, but it can also help, retrieve phone call data or different companies like that, right? Where you're collecting different types of data, and then you can use something like that to pair it with a let's say a highway or some type of a fraud detecting to figure out, okay, are these like phone calls that we should even be picking up, right? Like, so you're using different technologies together to create a better working atmosphere for your employees. And actually working on it should actually be out by the time that this conversation is out, but I'm working on an article right now on the question of what these jobs will evolve into, right? And you probably see a lot of my writing. You'll definitely hear it from freight tech leaders in this space. This technology is going to open up time for your reps to do what actually matters to them. Well, what the is
what
that?
matters? That's the real question. Because they don't.
Exactly.
If you don't know what matters, how do you know it's making the things that matter?
Yeah, and also like a part of the reason I wanted to do this article is, and I've talked about this a number of times before, even with like layoff articles, is, do you know what your job is turning into? Are you going to like that job once it turns into something different in of itself? And can you do that job? So hopefully those who read that come out and say, okay, now I have an idea of like the aftermath of this technology, the path I need to work on implementing and building a team around it. But I also need to understand what I'm operating against in the future. We talk about the small margins, right? That's something that's not going away anytime soon. But what does the employee that's sitting in front of you today, what does their job look like in 2026? And if that job is the same because of your strategy, well, hopefully this article will give you an idea of what your competitors are doing, right, with that position. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now is a lot of this AI to create a better working atmosphere for employees. Well, what does that actually look like? And then what are we doing with that extra time, right? Once that's available, and what is the logistics provider actually turning into, and how are they working with enterprise carriers?
Boom. So that's enough about those utopian goals of the tech bros. They're like, they're moths attracted to the light of Karl Marx. You have to watch out for them. But this is excellent stuff. Final question, because I did have this in there. This is a yes or no because we're out of time. But why Marshawn Lynch deserves an honorary MBA? You maybe remember him from the famous press conference where he says, "I'm just here so I don't get fined." But there is profound business wisdom in that, dear listener. Start with Mary real quick. Yes or no? Does he deserve?
I mean, obviously, yes. I am a huge Marshawn Lynch fan. And also, fun fact, before this, I Googled because I got down a rabbit hole. He has an honorary degree from Princeton as he gave the address in 2020, I think.
Oh, wow. So I just got beat. I didn't do my research. He may already have an MBA. Grace,
Listen, I like a guy who's going to come out and say exactly what he says, right? And especially as sometimes we're not always happy in this industry, talking about a bunch of employees that might not be happy with their leadership in that regards, to come out and say what's on your mind. I love to see. We were talking about this before. Big business guy. Love that he's doing that, but also he's an incredible actor. I'm just going to throw that out there. Like,
shameless plug for
Here you
everyone
go.
to watch Murderville.
You can
Yeah,
find him in the
everyone go watch
Netflix
Murderville.
series Murderville. It's a
Yeah.
mystery show released in 2022. He is on season 1, episode 2, titled Triple Homicide, as Terry
Mhm.
mourns the loss of his late great aunt. He finds support in training Marshawn Lynch, who helps him scope out suspects after a wealthy woman is killed. So this was brought to you not officially by some really great content, but tying this all together. Dear listener, make sure you have a trusted partner who does not treat you as I'm just here so I don't get fined, and make sure that they treat you like the same attention you deserve, similar to how Marshawn Lynch treated the case in Netflix, where he helped solve the fictitious murder of a wealthy older woman.